When I was a child, something that always fascinated me was the world of internet horror. From a very young age, I was intrigued by whatever could keep me from sleeping that night. This started with creepypastas, which I was exposed to through a classmate in primary school, who would tell me about them, some of which being Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, and Eyeless Jack. And when I learned how to use the YouTube search bar, I was exposed to Slenderman. Watching totally legit Slenderman sightings at my friend's house gave me this weird sense of morbid curiosity, almost like that sinking feeling you get when you look down a dark hallway at 2 AM. As a kid, I wondered what could be hiding in that darkness, but now as an adult, grizzled with heartbreak, alcoholism, and a minimum wage retail job, I hope there's something hiding in that darkness that will give me a good reason to call in sick to work. I think this interest in internet horror is what has given me such a fascination with true crime and analog horror. But this rabbit hole I ventured down as a child led me to discover one of the internet's biggest fandoms, Five Nights at Freddy's. To this day, I'm actually quite unsure as to what led me to discover FNAF. It could have been the countless dawko and razzbowski videos that existed at the time. It could have been the fan animations. It could have been those Smike top 10 videos.
NF number 8 is that Toy Freddy, he's kinda, fat.
The various different fan songs, or it could have been Jacksepticeye's Let's Plays. But either way, my child brain's curiosity had been piqued. I found the game a bit after the release of FNAF 2. I had vague memories of watching people play the second game. The game had everything a little nerd like me could ever want. A fun game to watch, interesting horror lore that I could sink hours into, and a rotating selection of grown men to play the game while screaming their lungs out. I was there for the release of FNAF 3 as I watched Markiplier's first playthrough of the game in my sitting room, and since then, I've been with the series through thick and thin. And while I definitely grew distant from it as I grew up, there's always something that keeps drawing me back to it. The first game is probably my favourite when I look back at the first 4 entries. There's just something about it. The dimly lit office you're locked into for the course of the game, the old and staticky camera system, the ominous animatronics just sitting there. The tone of this game is set on that first night you spend in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Our task is to survive until 6 AM while conserving our limited power supply and fending off against 5 animatronics. Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, Foxy the Pirate Fox, the titular Freddy Fazbear, and a secret bear animatronic dubbed Golden Freddy, or Yellow Bear. These animatronics will stop at nothing in order to enter your office and kill you. While these guys don't look that scary in a well-lit room, it's that darkness the game uses to its advantage to allow the animatronics to enter this realm of uncanniness. Pair that with the fact that they only move when your cameras are down, and it can be quite unnerving for new players, especially my child self. I think the fact that they don't move most of the time when you're looking at them really helps the game, even if it was just the creative restraints of the developer, Scott Cawthon. Throughout your nights at Freddy's, you're greeted by a man leaving you messages on the phone. A phone guy, if you will. He gives you some advice and some extremely vague lore, which will become more clear and, messy as the series progresses. The nights will get progressively more difficult, so it's nice having this guide help you through each night. Well, that's until his Tesco mobile credit runs out on the 4th night, and he leaves us this one final message.
No. Oh no.
Don't worry guys, I'm sure he's fine. But anyway, let's talk about the animatronics a bit more. The main 2 you'll run into the most are Bonnie and Chica. Bonnie will try to enter your office through the left door, while Chica will try to enter your office through the right door. These 2 are active from night 1 onwards. They'll get progressively more invasive as you make it through the game. While these 2 animatronics function practically the same, Chica's a bit more unique. She's the only animatronic who enters the kitchen area of the pizzeria, and starts stumbling around like I do trying to enter my friend's apartment at 3 AM making as much noise as possible. Then there's Foxy. Foxy chills in Pirate's Cove, but will occasionally leave to sprint down the left hallway to run into your office. This is pretty rare for night 1 and 2, but he does it more frequently on later nights. He probably has the most unique attack method in the game. Too bad his jump scare is more friendly than aggressive. Last, there's Freddy himself. Weirdly enough, he can actually attack you from both doors. If you run out of power on your night shift, he will appear in the left door to play a nice little melody before he stuffs you in a Freddy Fazbear suit. But on later nights, he actually tries to attack you during your shift and will enter through the right door to jump scare you. I'd expect nothing less from the central antagonist of the game. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Yeah, Golden Freddy is also a threat in this game. He will come into your office and sit there looking at you stone-faced until your game crashes. This is pretty rare, but you can also trigger this manually with the game's custom night by entering the code 1987. Speaking of 1987, I suppose we should brush up briefly on the lore of this game. In the phone calls, it's alluded that one of the animatronics bit someone during the day shift.
But then there was the bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe.
Some believe it was Foxy because of his out-of-order status. Some believed it was Freddy because of this handprint that's on his face in one of the renders of him. This theory has been plaguing the community since the release of the first game, and it's still unsolved. But don't worry, we'll come back to it later. If you've played the game long enough, or have watched as many game theories as I have, you'll know the newspaper clippings in the pizzeria will sometimes change. The clippings will change to display a story about 5 children that mysteriously went missing within the pizzeria. Another clipping discusses how people have begun to complain about the odor emitted by the animatronics. People reported seeing blood and mucus oozing from the animatronics, and the restaurant had apparently been threatened with closure over this sanitation issue. Now, it doesn't take a matpat to put 2 and 2 together here, and find out where those 5 missing children are. We learn through another clipping that those 5 missing kids were lured into a back room by a man dressed in a mascot outfit, with the suspect being charged. It's this vague lore that catapulted the game into stardom. Theories upon theories were posted to YouTube about what this game's story is about, and honestly, I think it's deserved. The game is simple, sure, but it's unique. It created its own gaming subgenre of horror, and it sparked the careers of many creators, so I can't really hate on it. Now, what do I think of the game? Well, as someone who's played the game on and off for years now, I've gotta say it holds up. Sure, it's kinda dated. There's some parts of the game that show the constraints of the developer, like the animatronics not moving until the camera turns to static, but I think that's also the charm of the game. The simplicity, the dimly lit office, the uncanny animatronics, even the sound design. Like seriously, the laughter of the children, the noise that plays when they're at your door, the distorted speaking that comes from the animatronics, even the jump scares are just the distorted cries of children. Like the sound design is peak here. The first game is still probably my favourite out of the franchise, purely based on how unique it is for the horror game genre. Scott must have really realised the potential of the FNAF franchise, because 95 days later, he released the highly anticipated sequel to the first game. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 dropped on November 11th, 2014. Before it dropped, Scott would release various teasers for the game on his website, scottgames.com. These teasers revealed a few things about the game, mainly that this game was a grand reopening for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This means redesigned versions of the original cast of animatronics. We also get a glimpse at the FNAF 1 animatronics battered and withered alongside the new characters dubbed the Toy Animatronics. The phrase something old, something new is really put on full display in these teasers. We also get a first look at the game's new mechanics, the Freddy mask and the music box. These Scott Games teasers were very important for the release of these games and to the community, so I will mention them before I talk about each game. Anyway, so FNAF 2, what's it about? Well, it's similar enough to the first game. You're stuck in your office with a camera feed to look over the animatronics until you reach 6 AM. However, there's a few deviations from the first game. Firstly, there's no doors. Yes, you heard me right. The days of closing the door on Bonnie's face and praying that he leaves are officially over. What's Scott's solution, I hear you ask? Well, that brings us to mechanic number 1, the Freddy mask. As a security guard, you are equipped with a Freddy mask you can put on when these freaky fucks enter your office. This will make the animatronics think you're also an odored, grimy Fazbear robot stuffed with the remains of a dead child. This works on all of them, excluding Withered Foxy, because he's just built different, and the puppet. Speaking of Withered Foxy and the puppet, that brings us to the next 2 mechanics, the flashlight and the music box. Power supply is non-existent in this game. Kinda. It's been replaced with a flashlight that you can use to brighten up cameras and check the doors and vents. This flashlight has a finite battery supply, so when it runs out, you can't light up anything. This wouldn't be an issue if you didn't need the flashlight to defend yourself against Foxy. To get rid of him, you need to repeatedly flash your flashlight at him until he leaves. Without your flashlight, you're defenseless against him and he will enter your office and kill you. The music box is one of the most important mechanics in the game. You need to wind it up every minute or so to keep the puppet at bay. Failure to do so will lead to the puppet leaving their music box to come and kill you. The puppet is just one of the many new additional characters to this game. We see the return of our beloved FNAF 1 animatronics, but in withered form. All of them are broken down and damaged, but not to worry, we also have a new cast of antagonists dubbed the toy animatronics. These guys are just cutified versions of our original Freddy's cast, with the weird change being Foxy's replacement with the Mangle, an animatronic that kids can take apart and put back together. We also have 3 new original animatronics, those being the puppet, or the marionette if you're GameStop, Balloon Boy, and a hidden animatronic named JJ. This game also has some hidden animatronics too. Golden Freddy returns from FNAF 1 but in withered and hallucination form. We also see 2 new shadow animatronics, Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, or as Scott likes to call them. Yeah, I'm not gonna try and pronounce that. Going back to the other original animatronics, Balloon Boy is a short, chubby animatronic that resembles a child. You don't want this guy entering your office, because once he does, he takes your flashlight batteries and laughs at you, allowing Foxy to leap in and kill you. JJ is essentially just a gender-swapped Balloon Boy. She does nothing but hide under your desk and stare at you. The stare she gives you I could only really equate to the one I give any alt person I see in public. So what else is new in this game? There's vents now, which replace the left and right door from the first game. You still have a door, but this time it's in front of you and you cannot close it like I mentioned before. The phone guy has also returned in this game. He must have finally brought his Samsung S2 to Tesco to upgrade to a monthly plan or something. Honestly, I thought I'd have more to say about this game, but it's pretty much the same as FNAF 1, with a couple of extra and removed mechanics. Do I like the game though? Yes. I actually like it a lot. It's been tied with the first game for me when it comes to my favourite in the franchise, but there are a few things I don't like that bring the game below the first game for me. For one, the toy animatronics are a bit too cute. Not that kind of cute, you degenerates. I mean, like, look at the original game's animatronics. Scott hit that perfect balance between Chuck E. Cheese animatronics and the uncanny valley with these guys. While on the topic of Scott, I suppose I should talk about his biggest contribution to this game. And by that, I of course mean the lore. First things first, this game is not a sequel. Nope. Despite it saying that this is a grand reopening in both teaser images and at the beginning of the game, this is indeed a prequel. We learn this for sure at the end of the game, when the check we get contains the year 1987. This does explain why the phone guy is alive, I suppose. Throughout our nights, the phone guy tells us about police investigations that are going on at the restaurant, and that the restaurant went into lockdown. We also learn about an incident where someone used a spare yellow mascot suit from the back room. The last bit of lore we get from the phone guy is the mention of a birthday party, where the infamous Bite of 87 incident most likely happened. FNAF 2 has also introduced some lore through these Atari-style minigames you get after you die sometimes. The most interesting of these minigames depicts a day at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where Freddy is entertaining children, but a crying child is stuck outside of the building. A purple car pulls up to them as a guy steps outside. A purple guy, if you will. This mysterious man then kills the child outside the pizzeria and drives off. We're then jump scared by the puppet. Wonder what the connection between those two could be. Another minigame has us play as the puppet as we give life to the dead children. And by give life, I mean allowing their spirits to possess the original FNAF 1 animatronics. The main lore takeaway from this is the exploration of the dead kids possessing the animatronics plotline from the first game, along with the introduction of the man behind the slaughter. So that's FNAF 2. Honestly a step up for the series. While it has its flaws and annoyances, it's a solid game all around. And that's why I enjoy coming back to it. Okay, this is the point in the franchise where I was there for every teaser posted to Scott's website. And to say the community was hyped for this game would be the biggest understatement of the century. Everywhere I went, there was a FNAF 3 theory. YouTube, Reddit, the local corner shop, this game was inescapable. People were mainly losing their minds over this image of a new animatronic. Everyone had a different theory on who or what it could be. Some thought it was an old animatronic from the aforementioned Fredbear's family diner. Some thought it was Fredbear himself. I'm pretty sure some people were even trying to tell me it was a lion animatronic. I don't know. But when news hit that this animatronic was a hybrid, followed by this teaser of a box of the toy animatronic scraps, many thought it was going to be an eldritch amalgamation of all of the previous animatronics. Theorists dubbed him salvage at the time. Fitting, I suppose. Then there's teasers like this that make it really obvious who the animatronic was. More on that later. We get a first look at the minimap, along with these burnt versions of Balloon Boy, Chica and Foxy, with the text, "It's all in your mind." Most of these theories were put to bed after the release of the trailer, which gave us a closer look at our game's antagonist. And with the final teaser released, along with the trailer, FNAF 3 would officially release on March 2nd, 2015. So after 2 games in the franchise, how does FNAF 3 differentiate itself from the previous 2? Well, we're not in a pizzeria this time. Nope, we are situated in a horror attraction named Fazbear Frights. We return to basics here with one door. We can't close this door, but at least there's only one way animatronics can get into our office now. Well, more like animatronic. Yeah, there's only one actual animatronic. More on that later. Let's focus on this game's main threat, Springtrap. Springtrap is probably one of the most scary animatronics in the entire series from a horror standpoint. I mean, just look at him. He's all withered, stained, and there's an actual dead body inside of him. That's so cool. I am so glad he looks like that. Like with the previous animatronics, they couldn't look too scary because they're supposed to be children's entertainers. This means a lot of the scare factor has to come from the lighting and ambience. But not with Springtrap. Springtrap isn't our only threat though. We also have phantom animatronics. They're essentially burnt hallucinations of old animatronics that jump scare you and affect your systems. It's a cool concept, which brings us to this game's gimmick, the systems. Springtrap is always trying to get into your office, which means your only deterrent is luring him away with audio cues with the audio system. You can see where he is at all times using your camera system, and you can seal him off from reaching you with the ventilation system. All of these systems are susceptible to breakdown though, which means you'll have to take time out of your night to fix them. If your audio systems break, you can't lure him away, which leaves you open to an attack from him. If your camera system breaks, you can't see him, which leaves you open to an attack from him. And if your ventilation system breaks, you'll start to breathe heavily and hallucinate, which leaves you open to an attack from him. This is an interesting concept, but as you can imagine, by the later nights, it can get quite frustrating. Scott really changed up the format with this entry, and while some aren't big fans of this game, I can at the very least commend him for trying something new. It's pretty safe to say this game isn't really looked back on for its gameplay though. Nah, the only thing the fandom cared about at this point was the lore. The 8-bit minigames return in this game, but this time they appear after every night, rather than randomly after deaths like in FNAF 2. In these minigames, you roam around an abandoned pizzeria as each animatronic, each one being dismantled by the purple guy. The ghosts from these dismantled animatronics begin to gang up on the purple guy, which leads to him hopping into this Springlock Bonnie suit. What's a Springlock suit, I hear you ask? Well, it's like a hybrid between an animatronic and a mascot suit, allowing entertainers to enter the animatronic and use it like a mascot suit. William jumps into the golden Springlock Bonnie suit, taunts and laughs at the dead kid ghosts, and then the Springlocks fail, snapping into him, leaving him to bleed out and die on the floor of the back room. This back room they're in is sealed up until 30 years later, when the people at Fazbear Frights uncover the back room and find Springtrap to use in their attraction. There's some more hidden minigames in FNAF 3, with even more hidden areas within those hidden minigames. I hope you've been attentive to every small pixel of this game because you need to complete these to get the good ending of the game. Yup, there's good and bad endings to this game now. This game ends with Fazbear Frights burning to the ground, and thus, the series is over. Well, fuck. So what do I think of the game? Sure, it's a step up from the previous games. The environment is scarier, less animatronics, an actual scary looking animatronic at that, and the new mechanics are pretty interesting. But fuck me, is this game just kinda boring. Look, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an absolute sucker for the first 2 games, or maybe it's because I played some of this game drunk at my friend's place. but this game was not captivating to me at all. The loud beeping, heavy breathing, it made me miss the dead quiet ambience of the first game, you know? Is it a solid game? Sure. Would I recommend it? Yeah, probably. But if you've never played FNAF before, do not start with this game. Why you would start with the third entry in the series to begin with is beyond me. But play FNAF 1 or 2 first. They're much more entertaining in my opinion anyway. Now, Scott originally intended to wrap this series up as a trilogy, but unfortunately for him, and fortunately for matpat, there was one thing stopping him from doing that. Yeah, the jump scare was not scary. While FNAF 1's animatronics manically shook you, and FNAF 2's animatronics lunged at you, Springtrap just strolls into your office looking like he's about to ask you if you have any games on your phone. So with that, FNAF 4 was setting out to be the scariest game in the franchise.
Was that the bite of 87?
The teasers for this game were insane, to say the least. The animatronics in these look scarier and more detailed than ever before. You could almost say they look like they're from a nightmare. Thank you. I'll be here all night. The teasers were revealing that the 4th entry in the series would release on Halloween night of 2015, only for it to release a few months earlier on July 23rd. Yeah, Scott really likes releasing these games early, huh? Not really much to say in terms of the teasers. They just showcased the new animatronics of the game, along with these 2 teasers of new animatronics. So FNAF 4 released, some thought it was scary, some people didn't. I mean, can you blame them? They've been playing horror games as a career for years. I don't think anything scares them anymore. This game takes place in an entirely new setting, a child's bedroom. Our objective is the same as the previous entries. Fend off against the animatronics until 6 AM. The difference this time being the introduction of a few new mechanics. FNAF 1 focused on power management, FNAF 2 focused on time management, and FNAF 3 was kinda just about playing the offensive against the animatronic for once. So what does FNAF 4 focus on? Well, FNAF 4 focuses on sound, which means you gotta be really quiet for this entry in the series, which was probably not the strong suit of most of the Let's Players who played this game. You can run up to your 2 doors to check if there's an animatronic outside. If you hear one in the hallway, you have to flash your light at them, but if you hear them right in front of you, you have to shut the door immediately. Like FNAF 1, Bonnie will attack from the left and Chica will attack from the right. Foxy is located in the closet, so you have to keep checking on him or else you'll be jump scared. Freddy is different this time around. You have to keep checking the bed behind you to scare away these little fraddles with your flashlight. Failure to do so will lead to Freddy jump scaring you. The focus on sound is really interesting, honestly. It basically forces you to wear headphones and crank that shit up full blast to hear every little sound. So when you get jump scared, you actually get startled. I honestly equate the game to feeling like I'm 8 years old again and I'm scared to go to the bathroom in case the shadow man outside my door gets me. Speaking of shadow men, Night 5 is when everything is flipped on its head. All of the animatronics are replaced with one, Nightmare Fredbear. I honestly like this change to the formula, it really adds to the scare factor. There's also a Nightmare Night with all 4 animatronics along with a new addition called Nightmare, which is a shadowy translucent variant of Nightmare Fredbear. There was also a Halloween update which just reskins the previous animatronics with Halloween costumes and adds Nightmarion, which is like a nightmare marionette, and Nightmare Balloon Boy to the game. Between nights, you'll get to play a minigame called Fun with Plush Trap. In this minigame, you'll have to listen to the movements of a plush Springtrap that sits on the other side of the hallway, and shine your flashlight on him when he lands on the X. Winning this minigame will allow you to start your next night at 2 AM, which is a huge help and incentive to actually win this minigame. Speaking of minigames, remember those 8-bit ones from the previous entries that housed all the lore? Well, they're kinda back here too. Yeah, I suppose we should talk about the lore now. We follow Evan Afton as he talks to his plushie of Fredbear. He's the son of William Afton, the purple guy. He has an older brother named Michael, who torments and scares him, and he has a sister named Elizabeth, who we don't see much in this game. He's deathly afraid of Fredbear's family diner, especially the titular mascot himself. This is until his birthday party, where Michael and his friends decide to prank Evan, putting his head in the mouth of the Fredbear Springlock animatronic. The moisture from Evan's tears set off the springlocks, and BAM! Fredbear's mouth clamps down on Evan's head. And as Evan passes away in the hospital, we hear what seems to be the apology from his brother and the words, "I will put you back together," presumably from his father William. Many thought the bite from Fredbear was the final piece in the puzzle that solved the mysterious bite of 87. But nope, Scott decided to throw the date 1983 into the mix. So this is actually the bite of 83, not the bite of 87. There's also questions on whether we play as Evan in a coma in this game, or Michael haunted by what he did to his brother. There's also apparently book lore that says what we play through was actually experiments performed on either Evan or Michael by his dad William, using Scarecrow's fear gas or something. Listen, I've got places to be and women to fumble. If you want me to talk about FNAF book lore, I don't know, pay me, I have a Patreon. If I'm gonna be tortured, I want some monetary benefit out of it at the very least. So what do I think of FNAF 4? Well, while the original game and FNAF 2 still hold a special place in my heart, I think FNAF 4 is probably the scariest, with the original game at a close second. FNAF 4 is a pretty big step up from the previous entries, especially FNAF 3, and I think it shows how much Scott improved as a game developer. So that's FNAF 1 to 4. These games were a big part of my childhood, and honestly, revisiting them after a long time was a lot of fun, even though I look like I'm on the verge of burying a family of 5 in the woods. You should really check these games out if you haven't already. These are some of the best that the indie horror gaming subgenre has to offer. Thank you all for sticking through this video. I know it's a long one, but I think I covered all of the important FNAF games. If you want me to cover the rest of the entries in the FNAF series, let me know. And have yourselves a good one.